GM, we back.
Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Tuesday, Rob.
I love Tuesdays. I don't know about
Really?
you. I think Tuesdays slept on. Yeah, it just feels like you're after Monday, you kind of get over the hump. And if you have a productive Monday, you're in there by Tuesday, you're just ready to keep slamming through the week. I
Yeah,
think two days are underrated.
Today's gonna be a pretty sick stream. We just
Yeah.
have one guest today. We have SY, Story Protocol, and we're gonna be talking about the truth behind Story Protocol. I mean, these guys just put out the announcement of Jason, the co-founder, leaving, and got absolutely thrashed on Twitter. I haven't seen anything like that in a while. I mean, it was 5 million impressions and quote tweets that were just extremely angry. So we're gonna have the Story Protocol CEO join us today.
Yeah.
And we're not really gonna hold back.
No.
Quick disclaimer: you can check all of our disclosures and such on our website, which is actually now goodidea.ventures. And yeah, I mean, today is going to be a interesting conversation with SY, who's kind of like the shadow founder of Story. So yeah, looking forward to it, Rob.
I think you're right. I think he was a little bit lesser in the limelight when Jason was around. Yeah, like you're saying, obviously Jason 𝘗 left Story Protocol. Under the circumstances, there was some discussion that he left once his vesting reached its cliff. We're gonna play Mythbusters today. We're gonna either confirm or debunk a lot of these mysteries. Pretty cool that we are able to break some of this news. And you're right, SY was a little bit more behind the scenes. Jason, I think, was a little bit more public when it came to evangelizing and leading the community. As far as I know, SY was still very instrumental in the entire fundraising process. He has had multiple exits in the past. And so we're going to talk a little bit about SY's relationship with Jason 𝘗, maybe how they met, ultimately what led them to launch Story Protocol. We're also going to get into what the last few months has been and what the public perception is pre-Jason leaving and post-Jason leaving. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation. We're not going to hold back. And we're going to see exactly what SY has to say about the past, present, and future of Story Protocol.
Yeah, we are. I think he's ready. I think he's in the back. It's going to be fun.
Tell you're excited.
I got a new camera,
Crisp,
which is
brother.
pretty sick. I think it's probably looking pretty good. You guys tell me in the comments what you guys think. But everything's dialed here. So I'm just going to send out a couple reminders here, and then let's get SY in. So just give us 1 second. We'll get this thing started.
Absolutely. We're just putting the final touches on what is going to be a great show for you guys. Obviously, this is a bit of a special episode. We have a spotlight on SY Lee, who's going to join us in just a few moments. And we are going to hear the story of Story Protocol in just a few moments. Let us put on the final touches. Shout out to everyone.
I think we're about ready.
Helping us behind the scenes. I think they got SY loaded up for us. So let's bring him up on stage and let's have some fun.
Yeah, guys.
All right. Let's see. Here he is. SY, welcome to the show. You haven't been on before. We've done some in-person content before. You obviously have had quite the last few weeks. And so we are very interested, as well as the entire Story Protocol community and the crypto industry at large is very interested to hear your perspective on the last few weeks of things at Story Protocol. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, I just think that the community wants to get an understanding as to how a lot of this unfolded. You guys recently rolled out a announcement with a new kind of AI officer that followed up with the departure of Jason, who was the co-founder. I think it would be helpful just to start to understand, your relationship with Jason, with how Story Protocol was kind of created. Maybe you could just explain your relationship with Jay-Z, how that started, what that ended up looking like, and that would give us some helpful context for kind of this transition period. Hey, SY, just give us one quick sec. Sorry about that. Just checking on your audio, and we'll keep you there for a sec. Just making sure. Just don't want you to go too long here. Guys, just give us one sec. We're gonna. Yeah, I think it's important that we understand your background as well. I appreciate you flagging that. Just give us one sec here. We'll be right back, guys. Just gonna get SY's audio just tuned up real quick. But yeah, as you guys can imagine, the kind of nature of the conversation will likely just end up being SY addressing a lot of the feedback and us kind of pursuing an investigative, firm but fair fashion. So we will just give it a second here. Let's test his audio, Marcel, in the back, and then let's get him back up.
Yep. Like you're saying, I think, the spirit of this show is always about seeking truth. We've sought to educate as we've learned things in DeFi, in crypto, in blockchain. Our entire goal is to educate ourselves and educate our audience and community along with us. This conversation is in that same vein. The goal here is to understand what happened, I think, is the first most critical point. And once we do that, we can start to separate some of the different perspectives and really just understand the truth of the matter. That is the goal of this conversation. And you look, kudos to SY for coming out, facing some of the, the good, the bad, the ugly, and taking it on the chin and answering some of our questions because they're not easy questions to answer. So mad respect to the entire team, SY included. And yeah, let's make sure that we get his audio fixed up so that we can hear him properly. And yep.
Yeah, I think we got him.
Team's working on it behind the scenes. So we're going to get him up in just a moment. And I think, you started off on the right track. How did he meet SY? How did SY meet Jay-Z, excuse me? And generally understanding, SY's background that led him to this venture. And then, telling the story is what we want to understand.
Yeah, I think we'll flip it over to his backstory to start before we even get into what's going on with Jay-Z. And guys, just give us another half a minute or a minute. Sorry about that. Just gonna get this finalized, and then we'll be locked in for the rest of the stream, and we'll get it going. Just quick little bug here on our side. That's what happens when you run through a multinational, international stream across the world. So we're gonna get him tuned up and then get him back in. I think
we are innovative media tech here behind the scenes. It's quite the operation. We're pulling together several time zones, several geographical regions, and somehow All right. All right. There's all kinds of things that we're going to ask SY today. Obviously, Jay-Z's departure in the last few weeks has been pretty noteworthy.
Yeah.
But even before Jay-Z's departure, I think there were some very interesting things that were going on. There was accusations that were being thrown around, but there's also been quite a bit of development. I think also the idea of an IP chain was very it kind of tickled people the right way, but also the wrong way. And usually that's when you know you got something, right? People are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. And I think that is what Story Protocol did. The organization and the people around it, there was some liberty that was taken. But ultimately, this really gets down all the way to the core of the project. And so, with that being said, this was always something that was always going to get people's attention because of the controversy around and the ambition around the idea.
I mean, I just think that people have a very negative taste in their mouth towards different L1s these days, just because they've seen the playbook play out quite a few times, and they want to address it in a certain way that suits their bags. Like a lot of the Ethereum people, a lot of the Solana people, like there's always a next L1 that people are upset about, and I think that Story in particular has triggered a lot of people for various reasons, which we'll get into today.
Except Hyperliquid. Well, yeah, I mean, Hyperliquid has triggered a lot of people too, but it does seem a little bit more balanced. But you're right about the alt L1s coming up, getting a lot of hate. Some of them break through that hate, like Hyperliquid has. Some of them have yet to found product market fit. But a lot of them have found narrative market fit, which I think Story did, to their credit. I think, again, this was a very controversial idea, but simply the idea of creating a more efficient market around IP is a very intuitive idea. And I think someone's going to capitalize on this and execute it well. Obviously, we're going to hear from SY. We're going to hear about his background and the experience that he has. And everyone's going to be able to make their own judgment and decision on whether or not this team is the team that will execute on this idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it should be a good stream. I'd like to get this thing started. Just waiting. SY is just having a bit of audio trouble here, which is all good. I think we're back here pretty soon. Yeah. I think so, yeah. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got him behind the scenes now. We're going to pull him up on stage in just a moment. But we can hear him. We're going to make sure that you guys can hear him.
All right, SY, I think you're up, man.
Welcome back, SY.
Great. Hopefully it works.
Yes, it does. I think it was VPN, all these different stuff. I understand. So let's get right back into it. SY, we were going on to discuss your relationship with Jay-Z, but I think it's important to understand that, and I think people have this idea in their mind that Jay-Z was the face, the brand, the founder, and you kind of have like this shadow founder perspective and persona, which I think people don't really understand. So maybe you could explain your background before we get into your relationship with Jay-Z.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say right before this was that these things happen all the time. I had a company before. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 12 years. And the last company, I was working in mobile IP space. I sold that company to Kakao 4 years ago for $500 million. And even in that company, there were, I think, 3 phases, right? So the first co-founder left, and we had a CTO, CPO co-founder coming in when we pivoted to a new company. And actually, as a company, once we launched a product, as a company was trying to scale from 1 to 100. I had a very seasoned CTO, CPO come in, and that co-founder also left. So if you look at many of the successful companies out there, the first year leadership, 4th year leadership, 8th year leadership, it all evolves and changes. And actually it becomes a positive catalyst for the company as it tries to grow, right? So with Jason, actually after selling my last company 4 years ago, and I was itching to actually think about what is my next move, right? am I just going to continue to stay at Kakao and try to be a corporate executive, or am I going to start a new company? And I ultimately decided that, starting a new company is the right way. I'm not a big company guy. I get so much energy out of starting new things from ground up. And, crypto and IP was just starting with NFTs. And I thought there was so much more to crypto and IP than just JPEG files in NFT, right? And then I was very lucky to have found Chris Dixon and 𝘗𝘂𝘗𝘂𝘗𝘂. They backed me as a solo founder with $10 million term sheet. And then I was I was a venture partner at Hash. They also stepped in, and a lot of the backers from the last company, they piled on. So we had a $30 million already kind of committed. That was a very lucky time as a serial entrepreneur with a successful exit. And then, I was trying to build a team from there, right? And I had actually co-founder, Jason Levy, who was focused on IP. He was the first co-founder to come in afterwards. And then we were building the team, and actually Jason was someone who was recommended by Alliance DAO, Imran Khan and Qiao Wang. There was an accelerator for crypto, and they said there's this young kid, Jason, who's he'll be a good person to join, and the crypto is a new thing, and you want a very fast young talent working with you. So I met him. He was very impressive, and he first joined as a consultant for a few months, and then I offered him a position to work as one of the early employees, and he said, I want to start my own company. I can't join. Once I join the company, I have to commit for several years. I can't do that. And so I told him, no, just join as a junior co-founder, learn 0 to 1. In 3 to 4 years, you can start your own thing, right? And once we launched a blockchain, I think he's been kind of suppressing that thought for starting his own thing until the blockchain launched. And then after the blockchain launch, a few months after, he actually came and said, I think you told me, SY, 3 years ago, that this is a 0 to 1. Once I experienced it, I can go and start my own thing. I had a fantastic run. I learned a lot from you, but I think it's best for the company and not just me to actually have more professional executive team, CPO, and someone focused on AI who can actually scale this from 1 to 100. And it was a mutual agreement, right? It was a moment where we launched a blockchain, but it's about actually having stronger ecosystems, stronger applications, stronger use cases that this infrastructure will be used for. And the two leaders who came in, the chief AI officer, Sandeep, is a very, Jason has some experience in AI, but it's just ear and deep mind. But this person got his PhD at Stanford for AI, sold the company to VMware as one of the founding engineers, is a professor in AI, has been working in AI for a decade plus as one of the kind of very respected academic authorities. And Andrea, who is a fantastic kind of AI-focused product manager. He actually was working at Alexa Amazon team as a product manager, developer evangelist, led DevRel at Dapper Labs. So he has also consumer AI IP experience on top of AI experience. So he has a very, very good understanding of scaling product for kind of in the AI vertical and the consumer vertical. So so two of them just have tons of experience in scaling things, and now is a time to go from 1 to 100. We launched a thing, but we need to actually get a real usage, and these two are the right folks to drive the next stage.
Yeah. That's why I must say though that the announcement that Jay-Z put out, there was commentary, and I could understand why it felt like he was maybe a bit forced out. But you're saying that that's not the case, but it felt like that.
No, that's not the case, and that's not the case. As I said, it was from the very beginning. He wanted to ultimately do his own thing, right? And he wanted to join to learn 0 to 1, right? And he had a fantastic run, kind of getting to the blockchain launch, and then I think he ultimately wanted to go for his own thing, right? As a kind of a young founder, right? And it was actually him, stepping aside and going on to the next journey also leaves a room for these very experienced C-levels to come in, not just the CPO and chief product officer, chief AI officer. Now we have actually head of partnerships from Aptos joining. He also led all the BD at Libra at Facebook, and he's very, very experienced professional. So now we have a very seasoned executive team that are brought in, right, to get to the next chapter 2 of story. And you know, I've had this experience even in the last company, and I had the early co-founder was an engineer, but she loved product on top of just doing engineering. And then, you know, it came a time where now CTO cannot do the product, CTO cannot do the design on top of her just engineering work. And we had to, you know, it was a time where you needed a very professional mobile app scaling person in the product team, product vertical, engineer vertical, who came in to grow together. And as she worked together, she thought, okay, maybe this is, you know, I should focus on kind of my thing, right? Because, you know, this is, I love 0 to 1, not 1 to 100. Some people love that early stage of the game, right? Yeah. But for me as a CEO and founder and original of the vision, I mean, I see this as a decade-long or 2-decade-long longer journey, right? Yeah. I'll be always sticking around until this kind of vision comes to life. Yeah.
And this particular use case will take time to develop. And to your point, this is all the early history. And so I'm curious if you can maybe tell us a little bit more about the early history of Story Protocol and your relationship. And as you were working with Jay-Z, you know, what were you responsible for? What was he responsible for? And now that he's left, who's going to be coming in to take over his responsibilities?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm the originator of the vision, right? Because last company, I mean, to just give you my history, the first company I started was actually crowdfunding platform, Kickstarter, Patreon meets journalism and writing and blogging. So for me, IP creator was the very first thing that I started. And after that, I started Radish, which was a mobile storytelling platform with the thesis that kind of the fiction is the source of all the IPs, the cheapest way to create IPs, and you can scale to other types of IP very, very easily. And now it's basically, I'm not just doing an application layer or infrastructure layer of how IPs created, IPs licensed, IPs monetized, IPs funded. It's fundamentally rewritten through blockchain technology in the age of AI, right? So for me, that's, I came up with the vision. I set the vision and wide-ranging strategy. I built a team. I fundraise, right? And then, I'm the ultimate decider for all the decisions, and basically, that was my role. And Jason's role was kind of focus on protocol design, right? Protocol design, plus also being an evangelist and marketer along with me, right? I've been, I was also pretty loud in Twitter. I also was very active, but he took the role of actually getting on more podcasts, getting on more speaking engagements. But I'm going to be doing probably a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews going forward. So I'll probably be taking that role a lot more. Plus, Andrea, he served as president of the foundation. He's now the CPO, who's taken it over. So he will do that with me on top of on the public evangelism side. On the AI side, you interviewed Sandeep. He's going to play that role as well, and also as a co-founder of Poseidon. And the other, so that's the public evangelism side. The other side he had was product and protocol, right? That's going to be taken over by actually Andrea, who has a decade-plus long experience in product management and also building for developers. So he was in charge of developer relations at Dapper. He was a technical evangelist at actually Amazon on top of being a product manager. And actually, layer one and also protocol is a very developer-facing product. You want as many application builders coming on top of you, right? So you need to understand the minds of developers to actually thrive as a layer one ecosystem. So with that 10+ years of experience, he's going to actually, take it to another level, right? Jason was a very strong contributor from the 0 to 1 with the young energy and innovative spirit. And, the 1 to 100, you need actually the experience, seasoned product specialty and AI expertise to get to the next stage.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So now that we understand the roles, I appreciate that. I think the announcement went way bigger than any of us thought. I mean, it pretty much went from like it was at a couple 100K views to 5 million within a matter of hours and days, and took over the entire timeline for the weekend on crypto Twitter. And one thing that was particularly peculiar about it was the timing, man. So there was a lot of FUD and pushback about the timing of the announcement being 3 days after the 6-month core contributor unlock, which looks really, really bad, man. I'm not sure, what the details are exactly on, your token vesting unlocks. Yeah.
I think part of the reason why it went viral was there's so much misinformation about it, and it got propagated. And first of all, that's a complete lie. That is a 6-month unlock, right?
Actually, so there's no 6-month unlock.
Core contributors have
Yes.
a 1-year cliff, and plus 2-year vesting. So it's a 4-year vesting period for the first 12 months, your own tokens won't get unlocked at all, right? And you have a 3-year vesting on top of that. So it's a 4-year plus a vesting period, right? And even just a 20% of the core contributors token gets unlocked in the year 1, which is actually February of next year, right? So that's where things are sitting at. And actually, some of even I was shocking, was very authoritative newspapers, actually wrote that kind of thing, and then we had to correct it, and then which they apologized. Yeah.
Okay, so the timing of the announcement, there was misinformation about the token unlocks, and then you're saying that the timing was not correlated at all to any sort of 6-month unlock at all.
No.
It's all 1-year cliff.
It's 1-year cliff. 1-year cliff for the core contributors, and 3-year vesting on top of that, right? So it's a 4-year unlock period.
And that's public somewhere. That's in the docs, or that's on chain. How does one verify that?
It's in the foundation documents, and a lot of the tokenomics unlock tracker will show you that. Investors have a 3-year internal team actually have a year longer than the investors, right? So yeah, 3-year for investors, 4-year with the 1-year cliff. And actually, from what we know, there is a strict guideline around not having any tokens unlocked until year 1 for core contributors for American companies, which we are. Yeah. And
a lot of times I've seen that if an employee or a founder doesn't stay on past a certain threshold, some of their tokens are revoked. Did Jason leave any tokens on the table by leaving early?
Yes. So actually, there was also, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but he left earlier than his full vesting. Normally, for all these tech startups in Silicon Valley, it's a 4-year vesting period. He left 3 years in, right? And that also leaving, what's remaining on the table also allows you to bring in more seasoned team members as well, right? And which could be used for bringing future talents, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's why there's another. We can get into some of the more kind of quote tweets and stuff in a bit, but just kind of rolling back to
quote tweets. Yeah. What are these quote tweets?
Yeah, there's quite a few, man. I'm sure you've spent a lot of time reading them. Twitter went crazy. There's a tweet about that we didn't really bring up yet that I think is important about how you guys got the funding from your kind of Korean family / close companions. Is there anything that you wanted to clear up on the funding process of Story with regards to that? I know it's a bit of a wild card here, but there's some quote tweets.
I don't know what that actually you're talking about, but
Okay.
What do you mean by this?
Well, Yeah, on that announcement from Jay-Z, there's a recent quote tweet. Says, I'll have to find the exact one.
But anyway, what I can tell you is that, you know, given that I've sold a company in Korea,
yeah,
in the seed stage level, actually, we've had several founders or investors from Korea who've actually built companies in the IP and tech space who backed the company in the early days. I don't know if you're referring to that.
Okay. All right. Moving towards some of the actual nitty-gritty of Story.
Yes.
Story's revenue numbers from the quote tweets on DeFi Llama are very low, $50 in a 24-hour period or something like that. Why does Story generate so little in fees and revenue? Like, is there any real sustainability here for Story? What is the situation here?
Yeah. So first of all, I think you're referring to kind of the gas fee revenue, right? The gas fee revenue, and just to kind of put things in comparison, Mantle, for instance, a kind of top 30-40 token project, which is a pretty respectable chain. They have actually 200 to 300,000 daily transactions, which is similar to where Story is. If you go to storyscan.io, that's actually kind of the 200 to 300,000 kind of transaction number is kind of the ballpark number that we get every day on the daily transaction volume. And if you ask Mantle and just go to their scanner, what their revenue per day is, about $3,000 per day, or $2,000 to $3,000 per day. Story is doing, as you said, $20 to $50 per day, right? And where is that discrepancy coming from? The transaction volume is similar, but the gas fee is a lot lower for Story, right? And it was a very intentional choice because a lot of the chains out there are very kind of DeFi focused, trading focused. It's catered to a very small number of folks. But for Story, we deal with IP, we deal with data. It's a very, very consumer facing chain. In some ways, we have applications like Magma, which is 3 million users, and they would hate to pay, a lot of gas fee and ask that on to Web2 users, right? So for that reason, we intentionally made the gas fee extremely low, right? To actually get the chain going. And this is Stories at the stage of actually, getting real adoption of the consumer space, and it's at that stage, so it's not about like charging insane gas fee, right? And then so that's kind of where we're sitting at. So you can think of the gas fee as a taxation on the transaction. And at the moment, we have a very, very low taxation on the transaction, and that's generating about 200 to 300,000 transaction volume, which is higher than many of the layer 2s and layer 1, and layer 1s, and it's similar to something like Mantle.
Yeah, this is something that we've seen across other networks that are looking to drive growth network effects rather than trying to maximize their revenue from day one. And this is something that is true of Amazon in the early days, looking to build out an ecosystem before charging fees to encumber that ecosystem.
Yeah, but I don't really think that's the point. I think the point is more of like no one's using the chain is the response. Like that's kind of the pushback. It's more like no one's using the chain. There's no fees. There's no activity. It's a ghost chain. You raised $100 million. No one's using it, and it's vaporware. I mean, that's like the response. It's not like, oh, their Story's the next Amazon. It's like no, there is no next. It's just.
I think what you're trying to say, and this is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's lots of transactions. There's just not lots of fees and revenue being generated from those transactions. Is that accurate?
That's one aspect. That's one aspect. And second aspect is Story's use cases are focused on kind of crypto native use cases. When I say crypto native use cases, I think the things that actually get a lot of traction on Twitter, on X is really kind of the very speculative use cases, like meme coin trading, which we are now, getting into with IP-backed meme coin, 𝘵𝘩𝘪𝘴𝘬, which is actually generating creator fees for the actual meme owners and IP owners. But we're not a chain focused on this kind of speculative use cases or meme coin trading or DeFi farming, and because of that, we don't have the right kind of attention for kind of the echo chamber of X. But we have a lot of applications. So to give you an example, something like Magpie with 3 million users, it's a Figma for illustrators. All these illustrations coming out would get registered. And these get registered as intellectual property. And this intellectual property actually has a program licensing royalty share revenue. So actually, as an illustrator, you can use another person's illustration, and build on top of that, right? That's a use case that probably CT doesn't care that much about, but it's an interesting use case utilizing small contract. A second is an app called Avalo. It's a remix, AI remixing meets merch platform. It has brands like Adidas, Balenciaga, not all their design, some of their designs where you can actually create derivative design through AI remixing tools. And actually you can sell that and you can share the revenue with design houses. And things like Aria, it's an RWA protocol. It actually has everything from Justin Bieber's IP to Blackpink's IP that's registered, right? That actually it's driving TVL, right? So these are applications that are not like the sexiest CT stuff, because it's not the next. Is it going to 100x as the meme coin? Is it going to give insane yield farming revenue? But these are use cases that are, I think, important for crypto to crack, and that's kind of the things that we're focused on.
And oftentimes CT is very detached from the reality of what's happening either internally or around a company, especially one that's dealing with, as you're saying, consumer or business-facing enterprises. And so we obviously saw the reaction from CT on Jason's departure and on Story in general. Has there been a similar reaction from partners, some of your IP partners or applications building on top of Story? Maybe you could give us some insight as to what their reaction was. Was it the same or was it a bit different from what we saw on CT?
First of all, I would say actually, Jason, it was not an abrupt. I mean, from the CT's perspective, it's very abrupt. But he's been stepping back from April. Yeah, he told us mid-April about the news, and most of the partners or client-facing folks, or other clients or ecosystem builders, was mostly interacting with, not with Jason, but with the rest of the team. So it was not a real surprise for any of them, right? And then it's about, yeah. So it was not a real surprise, because that's not been. I think he was not the point of contact for most of these partners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a reality. Yeah.
So you chose to like delay the announcement of his departure.
No, it was a gradual process, right? From mid-April to, and it's not okay. He tells I'm gonna leave. He's not. He doesn't see leave the next day.
I understand.
It's a gradual process for the company, right?
All right. Man, I think another massive thing that we need to discuss is this token float situation. I think you guys have been pinpointed as one of the culprits of the high float, low FTV artificial moves in the chart. I think people are saying you guys raised $100 million, 2 really weird pumps with extremely imbalanced perps, funding rates, massive negative funding rates on the initial pump. Basically that your float is extremely low and that you guys are misappropriating what the float is. So yeah, maybe you could explain, your side of this.
Yeah, I think you're kind of characterized low float, high FTV situation, right? And first of all, I think we're, it's probably a relatively lower float, right? And when I say that is, I think the major reason behind why it's perceived that way is actually, if you look at most of the VC backed tokens, they get listed, like a major VC backed tokens, they get listed on every single exchange. And part of that deal is actually giving an insane amount of float, insane amount of tokens to these exchanges. For a company like Scroll, they have to give 15 to 20% of their tokens to an exchange, or Move 8 to 12%. There are several cases. It's multiple percentage, 5 to 15%. So the company ultimately took a decision. I mean, it's not just about getting on the exchanges. It's not about day one, right? It's a long journey. And what the circulating supply represents is an unlocked supply that's going to be used into investing into community and ecosystem, and also maybe exchange listings, right? That's why actually, but for us, we purposely made a decision, let's play a long game, and actually let's bring the tokens to the right application builders, the right community members, right IP builders, IP holders, and data builders, because we didn't give, for us, the last company's valuation when we raised the funding was about a few $1 billion valuation. And if we had to give 5, 10, 15%, that's hundreds of millions of dollars per token just going into kind of exchange airdrop farmers. And instead of that, why don't we put that into a long-term aligned parties? So actually, because of that, we have a lot more flexibility, and you'll be hearing that in the next coming weeks already. We will be incentivizing these weak tokens, actually collecting real-world data for big AI model companies. You'll be very surprised by that we're partnering with. Because of these tokens, we can now actually go after a massive IP catalog that are very recognizable IPs that are actually being added as TVL. It's going to be in the range of hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
So
okay.
that actually.
Yeah. Okay. So, right now on CoinGecko, it says there's 0.3%. It's 30% unlocked from circulating market cap to fully diluted market cap. Where are those tokens? Like the idea here is that these projects are basically falsely representing how much of the float is actually on the market, meaning that it says there's 30% right now, but it's more like 5%. Like, where are these 30%? Like, is this part of the team allocation, airdrop?
The float is basically representing, in the CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap's definition, a locked token that can be used for ecosystem and app builder and community incentives, right? And basically, that actually is being used to actually actively, daily, to basically give ecosystem grants, community, bringing IP, bringing data. For instance, the ARIA, vaults that actually brought Blacklink's IP to BTS IP. A lot of people got IP tokens, right? So that's kind of where it is, and that's actually true for every single chain out there, every single ecosystem out there. They're using their circulating supply to actually incentivize ecosystem builders and their most kind of aligned partners in the ecosystem and community members.
Okay.
And then I think the perception of folks thinking we're relatively lower is because a lot of the layer 1s or layer 2s or the chains who they launch, they get massive amount of flow. I think a lot of people are surprised. We didn't get a lot of exchanges on day one because I made an intentional decision as a CEO. It's not about being desperate to get just giving out all these tokens to all these exchanges and just get listed. And most of the other projects, because they do that, they just get dumped very, very quickly in the first few weeks. But for us, we were pretty resilient going into this ecosystem, going into at the launch. And a lot of people just attack, okay, it's a low float, whatever. But
that's the thing.
It's more responsible as an ecosystem foundation to actually give those builders. Yeah.
Well, you could put it that way, 𝘱𝘭, but I think people see it as there are some artificial pumps happening from market makers who are, there's some agreement for them to pump the token so that they can have some sort of cash out at a certain price, and that basically that it's just there's blowing out these short squeezes that are created are on purpose artificially to pump the price of IP. It's inorganic demand and borderline illegal, and that's what people see. They don't see, oh, I didn't give a lot of flow to exchanges.
I think, I mean, first of all, our market making agreements or retainer agreements, right? Just they get advisory tokens for actually market making, right? Even there's what they call loan call optional agreement, what that folks foundations use. We actually pulled out of it, right? And thinking very quickly, and we have just retainer agreements actually in the that's operating. And I think for what you're mentioning, right? Story, I think the kind of criticism we get is because Story didn't just give out a bunch of tokens to exchanges. We didn't dump in the way that other found tokens dumped in the first few months. And actually, if you track a lot of the major token launches in the last this year, most of them went down because they're not very responsible about basically giving ecosystem grants and so on and so forth. So I think for us, we want to bring the tokens in the hands of right builders, right community members, right IP holders, right data holders, and that's our philosophy. And that's coming from our unlocked circulating supply.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna have the impression that you and the team have not given, based on what you're saying, you've not given an extended amount of supply to exchanges. You have standard market maker retainer agreements.
No, we have standard airdrops given to everyone, right? And the ecosystem grants, builders, and so on and so forth. The one thing that we differ is, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of people were surprised that we didn't get a lot of the exchanges that people were expecting, right? Many exchanges, and that from the part of the decision was we cannot, we're just not, we'll be more thoughtful about how we approach this. It's a more long-term game. It's a long game. It's not about just let's get onto every single exchange possible on day one.
Okay.
Because that's a very short-term thing.
And so then, with this understanding that you've shared, I think our audience and the community appreciates the transparency here, and you being on this call. I think that what these answers don't really cover is the fully diluted valuation today of IP token is 5,768,000,000 and so on. And I just don't quite get how we can think about the IP token or Story protocol as something with such minimal amount of revenues and user numbers, and also just in the early stage to be worth that $6 billion or so mark fully diluted. So, I know crypto valuations can be kind of all over the place and kind of inefficient, but why is Story protocol worth $6 billion? Why is it not worth 600 million or 60 million? Like what is the reasoning as to why this is there outside of kind of what people think, which is a lot of that artificial pump type of tactics?
Yeah, no, there are many crypto protocols out there, crypto layer ones, crypto projects, and I'm not the biggest expert on why Ripple's whatever hundreds of billions of dollars, or Solana's hundreds of billions of dollars, right? I'm not going to pretend to be that person, but I think what I can say is this, right? Most of the crypto projects so far has been focused on, I think, at least infrastructure-wise, two main things, right? One is building a faster chain, building a faster TPS, and secondly, they've been very focused on not only just building a faster TPS, but like a lot of the DeFi focused chains, right? There are those two have been kind of the major narratives for these infrastructures. I think story is something that's very weird. It's something that is not kind of it's hard to evaluate as a CT person or as a crypto analyst, because it's something doing something totally different. IP blockchain. There was no intellectual property focused blockchain. And what I can tell you is IP is a massive asset class. It's an $80 trillion asset class, from entertainment franchises, biomedical patents, AI training data sets, to all these different things, right? And that has been illiquid. That has had so many middlemen, right? If you want to license an IP, remix an IP, lawyers, business development department, agent, there's so many friction in that IP world. And that IP is actually, is a Bitcoin is comped against gold. It's $20 trillion asset, right? But the IP is a massive asset class that's actually is looking to be innovative. And secondly, on the IP side, IP, I think, is going to be more and more valuable, especially a subset of real world data. Is going to be more and more valuable for AI. In AI, there are three kind of battlefields. One is what I call model architecture. That's OpenAI's to DeepSeek's of the world. It's getting very commoditized. OpenAI, Anthropic, maximum 2 or 3 month difference. Compute is monopolized by NVIDIA. OpenAI is a $500 billion company now. It's raising a $500 billion. NVIDIA is multi-trillion-dollar company. The last piece now is going to be about data. Even if you, as a Tesla robotics AI model, even if you scrape the entire internet's data, you cannot have a robot hold a coffee cup, right? Because you need a lot of rare data, long tail data, for that robot to hold a coffee cup, right? And how do you get it? You can do it in a centralized way, or you can do it in a decentralized with crypto incentives and collect it, and then actually have an IP, put it on the IP blockchain, license it with smart contracts and so on and so forth, right? So we think, data, infrastructure, data, and IP for the AI age is going to be as valuable as these two other verticals. And, it's a massive market, and it's actually has more relevance going forward, is our belief. And I'm not going to pretend to say I'm the expert on crypto valuation. I don't know why Pepe is valued more than X, and crypto, I don't know why Ripple's more valued than Solana. There's so many, things I cannot explain. For us, let's focus on the product, focus on the problem. It is a massive market. It is a very important market. It is something that has to be unlocked for AI. So that's how I approach it. And if you don't believe that should be 6 billion, that's fine. And we're playing a long game here.
So looking at this maybe from a different angle, you guys not only went live with the token and it's trading on an open market, and frankly, people can go short it, if they think it's overvalued. But when you went to raise funding from guys like A16Z who have a proven track record, are these the same things that you're communicating to them? They're buying in, they see the same vision, and so they invest. If you're looking at it from the A16Z angle, the Chris Dixon angle, what is the return on invest? How do they end up making a multiple, and how do they end up making a return? Because it seems that, like you're saying, this is a massive market, but the $5-6 billion valuation, they maybe, the raise was a little bit of a lower valuation, but they still got in at a relatively high valuation. What's going through their mind? What is their mental calculus when it comes to, look, we're going to invest at a multi-billion-dollar valuation, but we're still going to see a return. For that, it takes revenue, doesn't it? It takes some sort of growth. How are they going through the mental gymnastics to?
Of course, even the data side, the Poseidon we just launched, which is actually running on top of, which is going to run on top of Story. Scale AI was doing multi-billion-dollar valuation. That actually all the contracts gone away. We're now signing a lot of the partners that they dropped from Poseidon, and it's all going to be registering on the RIP blockchain. That application, right, will that product is going to generate a lot of revenue, right? And as a DevCo, we can actually also build a lot of applications on top of Story, like Consensus, that's going to generate a lot of revenue. And the chain could actually, as it grows and grows, will generate a lot of revenue. We're a lot of the Silicon Valley funds have a 10 to 15 year cycle, right? And we're playing the long game here. and it's a massive IP. IP is a massive market,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be more important in the age of AI. And that's that's kind of where we're playing at. And if you don't buy the thesis that actually in the same way crypto innovated on finance, crypto can innovate on intellectual property. And I think on an intuitive level, IP tokenization using smart contract for licensing and royalty sharing makes a ton of sense. In an intuitive level, scaling the data collection and licensing for AI model companies with IP terms attached to it on the IP blockchain makes a ton of sense. And if that actually has a leg, and we start, and I think you'll be surprised by some of the IPs that are going to come in the next few months. I think you'll be very surprised by some of the AI partners that we're signing on. And that actually, I believe, rather than building another faster chain, rather than building another DeFi protocol, it's more ambitious, it's more risky, but is a very worthwhile journey that is going to have a massive impact.
So I'm curious, this is a bit more of a general question, but I think it's relevant in the light of Jay-Z's departure. You're describing this as a 10, 15, 20-year journey, which I believe it is, as well as a lot of other crypto endeavors. Do you intend to be around this for 10, 15, 20 years? Like, what is your dream scenario if you can try to think about what this is going to look like as it plays out?
No, I think I always kind of describe it as two distinct things, but I think a very visual way of imagining what we can do is we're building a massive IP Legoland. When I say massive IP Legoland, is that when humans have these IP Legos, Pudgy Penguin can be a Lego piece. And you actually take that Pudgy Penguin and you now have a vibe coding AI gaming tool, right? And then you can make a very, very high resolution MMORPG Pudgy game, some kind of Pudgy battle game, all these things now, without even asking to Luca, can I actually license this? But there's already a licensing royalty share terms baked into that IP so that you can now use it as a Lego piece for your creation. And now, back in the days, even if you have a hold of this IP, the best thing you can make is a fan fiction and fan art. But now you can make a high resolution game, high resolution movie, high resolution other product, right? That's going to be, for me, making that if every human has IP Lego pieces that they can play with, plus a magic wand of AI remixing, a magic wand of AI, I think that will bring a creative renaissance. That's something that I'm very excited about as someone who's been building at the intersection of IP and technology. And secondly, the exciting thing is around really, I think data, with now Poseidon coming on board, data is actually really the gold and oil for the AI economy. And a lot of people think data that you're creating, for even Tesla Optimus team, you holding a cup or you typing a keyboard with the GoPro on your head and an egocentric video footage, that actually, for 1 hour, is extremely valuable, actually. You typing keyboard and holding a coffee cup in 1,000,000 different angles, 1,000,000 different lightings, with gargantuan amount of hours. And that actually helps a robot hold a coffee cup and type a keyboard. And that is an IP. That is an intellectual property that you should own and license. And that's what better is it to do it than, this previous way of scaling AI, where a shell company hires 10,000 people in India or Indonesia, pays them, and then license in a bespoke agreement to Tesla or Meta, Google. Instead of that, why don't we actually cross-source it? Anyone can upload their data, get crypto incentives in return, register the IP terms, and these AI model companies license. That's a much more scalable way. So I think for me, it's an IP Legoland, and also people realizing that anyone can be a data miner, and my data is my IP, right? It's kind of that is for me a very exciting world, and maybe sounds very ambitious, but that's exciting for me.
Well, that vision makes sense. I think what I'm trying to understand is, okay, say that plays out 10 years down the line. what is the right way for a crypto founder to exit a company? Like Satoshi did it one way, right? He just disappeared. There's other, and the market and the community was seemingly unhappy with the way that Jay-Z exited. Maybe it was just too early, right? But these crypto decentralized companies are noticeably significantly different from how one might exit a traditional non-token based company. And so is there a right way, if you were looking at, and kind of analyzing, did Jason do it the right way? Granted the time frame, if you're doing it 10 years down the line, how do you do it differently so that it is better received?
I mean, I don't want to speak on hypotheticals here, but for me at least, I mean, obviously,
just theoretically, how should someone do it if they were to do it?
I think if you what you can do as a founder is really give it all to the company and try it and grind it. And in the last company, actually, when a lot of new founders come to me, since I'm a 𝘗𝘂𝘓 founder, what can I do? What's the best advice you can give me as a startup founder? I say, every startup is an overnight success, but it happens on 2000th night or 3000th night. And also, today's going to be difficult, and tomorrow's going to be even more difficult. 5 years going to be even more difficult, but in 7 or 8 years, it's going to be a victory, or it's going to be optimistic. So I think just being around long enough and surviving is actually thriving, is how I view it. And I think for me, I think this is a massively amazing, kind of opportunity. And this is, I don't know, for me at least, I've been always working at the intersection of IP technology. I don't know what I can do else, and one thing that one of the angel investors who invested in me told me was that, SY, what I like about you is, you're saying the same thing. 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 9 years ago, I was trying to actually figure out a way that writer and blogger can be funded with crowdfunding. And now after that, I was trying to do what the fiction writer is an IP creator, original IP creator. Now I'm trying to actually bring that ownership to other, through crypto technology, and get IP holders to monetize or data holders to monetize. It will take different formats, but I'm solving the same problem in a much more deeper and structured way is how I feel like I'm doing it with this. And the beauty of building a story like ecosystem is that there's so many ways to attack this problem, right? Poseidon, real world data is also an IP. What Arius is a music IP, right? So I think there are so many, such a large playing ground to play in this battlefield. So I think so it's very expansive on all the opportunities. So for me, as actually at least the CEO, as a largest shareholder, like that's something I need. I want to try it until the end. Yeah. I want to try all the way. And that's how I view it. It's going to be, obviously there's going to be tough days. I mean, obviously I didn't like it when I didn't expect that kind of reaction. Yeah. Obviously that was a very reaction that I had to go through. But life moves on. You keep fighting. You keep shipping. Yeah. And I think we have a lot of exciting things coming in the next few months with AI,
5 million.
with AI partnerships, IP partnerships. So
yeah, I'd like to get into that. SY 5 million views on the tweet was I think I was over. If I had to bet an over under on the amount of views, and had I known prior of like what the tweet was going to say, I'd have bet under. So it's pretty shocking.
Yeah, I would have just said, don't even post it. Just post your LinkedIn strategic advisor. That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
Eclipse did a question.
Eclipse did an exit yesterday. They restructured the entire team and did a CEO announcement, new CEO. Half the team, half the leadership had been either resigned or fired, and it maybe got a couple 100K views. But that's also the difference in magnitude of importance, I suppose, or just the way that it was done.
I mean, Andy Robbie, I think one thing that I have to tell you is that, when I was a first-time founder, there are even bigger dramas, right? It's like, I had like 80% of the team leave. Things change. The leadership team changed. 5 out of the 6 people may get changed. And the thing about crypto, which is interesting, as I experienced it, you're building a startup. A startup is actually going public. You're building in public as a 4th-year startup, right? And that's why, and you see dramas unfold, you see things unfold in real time, and that's part of the thrill, but that's also the part of the downside. But I think that's just part of building in public, right? But as you know, startups, there are a lot of changes all the time. There's pivots and so on and so forth, right? And that's how it works. But every time these things happen, you evolve. It's I think the founder's job and the team's ability to use this kind of opportunity to actually grow to the next stage. And and knowing startups and Andy Robbie, I think that these things happen, right? But now I think for some reason, it was just blown up, and a lot of misinformation here and there, and I just wanted to have those things cool down so that I can kind of talk rationally about this. And thank you for giving this.
Well, that's why I just got a couple more things for you, man, because I'd like to talk about what's coming for you guys. But we have some tweets that we need to address still, I think. One of them is from, and excuse our naming of our crypto Twitter characters here, who would never show their faces in real life and say these things to you, but would say them online behind a profile. We got we got a claim here from 𝘗𝘓𝗏, which is a funny name, saying that he's basically accusing you guys of dumping your foundation tokens on PIPE investors for the digital asset treasury company that you guys recently announced, and he's basically claiming that you guys are racing for the door on Story. So that could be couldn't be as far-fetched as that's extreme far-fetched and false. And basically the whole point of actually the digital asset treasury vehicle was that I saw it as another exchange listing, right? And if you think about the reality of crypto market, and I think as a crypto founder, making sure your token holders get their value is also very important focus. And what this vehicle does is actually now there's an exposure that public market exposure, right? So this is an excellent marketing vehicle, fundraising vehicle to bring in new liquidity, new attention to the mainstream public and institutional funds. You can't even believe, and it's kind of crazy, because I had a Web2 company beforehand. A lot of the Web2 investors from my last startup and funds actually backed my company. We said we can send you the tokens with small contract vaults, with a lockup period. I think still 10 to 20 funds and investors haven't claimed their tokens because they don't like this wallet. It's like, I just want shares, I don't want tokens, right? Like what's interesting is that most of still crypto, a lot of institutional funds and Web2 investors, they don't like holding tokens, right? They don't like holding tokens. So this gives a way for them to invest in these tokens. And what the foundation, foundation token does is foundation is not dumping the token. Foundation is getting share. And the reason why we exchange foundation tokens, some of the foundation tokens, with the shares is that we really wanted to make sure this equity vehicle we control as a foundation. The foundation gets to control it, right? What if this equity vehicle at some point says, I'm going to dump IP token? That's going to be terrible for the company, for the ecosystem, right? And we just want to make sure the foundation gets a huge amount of equity in this vehicle, right? And also, so that they feel protected. The tokens get protected. And also, I mean, as a disclosure, I also swap some of my lock tokens to the extent, and I'll actually have the same lockup period, year one unlock. It doesn't unlock until really. I've heard that these lockups are significantly shorter on these digital asset treasury companies.
No, I actually made personal decision for my token. I don't want to give any stupid misconception that I'm trying to dump tokens before the unlock with shares. So I made it align with the token unlock. And the reason is I'm afraid for some kind of black swan event, this public vehicle, says I'm not going to choose the IP token strategy. So I wanted to have the right kind of governance power over this entity as a foundation in my level, so that we can never see that happen, right? So that's the thing, and yeah, I mean, I guess for us the decision was let's get the mainstream funds, mainstream public to be able to invest into story and get exposure to IP token without buying the tokens, because still a lot of people think crypto is a very dangerous asset. Second, the reason why Foundation and I actually swapped some tokens was because we wanted to have, we're going to be the largest kind of share warrant holder as a block, and we have the right governance over this entity, and so that they can not, choose to just suddenly get away from the, token treasury policy that we put in place.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes
Or the equity company could go rogue and start spending money on other things, right? It has to be focused on IP token treasury strategy, right? And you want to have, the only way to have that is actually have the voting shares.
Understood.
My only question on the treasury company is, why was there any rhyme or reason as to the particular company you guys bought was like a brewery or a brewing company? And so was there, I couldn't really understand the overlap between the purpose of the company and now in employing this IP strategy. Was there any overlap, or was it just a company for sale?
As part of it is you're looking for a public partner with a very low valuation who's looking to pivot to a new strategy. So I don't want you to focus on the existing business. In the future, they'll probably add validator business. They'll actually go double down on the IP ecosystem. More stuff with the IP. That's what matters, is not what it is now. And for various reasons, for governance, economic, financial, kind of the profile of the company, it was the right partner to partner with. But in 2 quarters, it's not about or 3 quarters. Hopefully, it becomes about validator business, investing into IP tokens, investing into the ecosystem.
Yeah. That's why another kind of trend here from the quote tweets was about the lack of collaborative efforts from the story team when people are trying to build on story. So one guy, Burry, says that it's impossible to get in touch with the team for support to build anything meaningful on it. He knew a team that was working on some cool IP tech, stacked with quantum scientists and physicists, and story team said they're not interested at this time. And then also we had a bit more of a famous kind of crypto Twitter fella, 𝘗𝘳𝗦𝗧𝗒𝘗, who wrote that he tried to get in touch with the team to collaborate on his idea, which was own the Doge, his Doge IP community coin. And he found it essentially impossible to work with story without locking themselves into the framework. And so, yeah, maybe you can just clear up some of the maybe like business development or kind of like ecosystem collaboration efforts, and maybe it's something that you're not even aware of, but I just wanted to put it in front of you.
Yeah, I think those are all fair kind of criticism, but I think we have a very experienced team actually trying to fill in as many inbound requests as possible, and we have several apps that are really building on. But I take the fair criticism on not being able to fill in every single things in a fairly responsive way, and we'd like to come back with a better way to get back in a timely manner for these kind of requests, right? But we have several systems that are being vibrant on the ecosystem.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the better stuff, SY. We got KBW coming up,
yes,
which I think you're excited about. What is your Maybe you could just explain to us Story's current setup in Korea. Like, what is Story's stronghold over Korea? What is your plans? If you can share, if you may, some stuff about what's coming for KBW and more. And then we can just talk about what's coming next.
So I think Korean Blockchain Week is coming up in a month. I think some folks have to understand the context of Korea, and also why is SY so obsessed with IP and technology? Probably, I think, because a big part of it is being Korean. Our biggest industry is actually IP, right? We have BTS, Blackpink, we have Baby Shark, we have Squid Game, we have Parasite. All these are IPs that were born out. I mean, Solo Leveling, it's a Webtoon IP. Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. All these are very, very strong IPs that came out of Korea, local IPs that became global phenomena, right? It's all happened in the last 10 years. And I think the smartest brains, the smartest entrepreneurs in Korea, they want to go into the IP space, an IP and tech space, really, right? So it is as an IP blockchain working here, Korea is a massive opportunity. We have the founder of the BTS, the company is CEO by the main production company behind Blackpink, and several, top tech company former CEOs and founders, former CEO of Naver, which is the largest tech company in Korea. All these folks are actually shareholders or investors in the company, or big partners and big supporters. So, building an IP blockchain, Korea is a very important place. And then secondly, I think Korea is also, as you know, the second largest crypto market besides US dollar. So Korea, KRW was the biggest trading pair with $600 billion, whereas the US dollar was $800 billion for spot market in the last quarter, right? And then we're also huge users of AI. So ChatGPT's second largest paid customer comes from Korea, and also huge things happening with robotics, physical embodied AI. We're not going to create ChatGPT, but we're going to create best robots with Samsung, Hyundai, LG, all these companies. So for us, what we actually have in play in a month, I think it's going to be revealed in the next several hours. But just to drop an alpha, we're going to be holding a massive event with the biggest brands in Korea. Biggest newspaper in finance newspaper, economic newspaper in Korea, with the biggest kind of blockchain kind of media groups you can imagine. And all the who's who of Korean IPs are going to be probably coming to Story's event. And we'll have a major announcements that includes, 9-figure TVL deal, IPs doing massive things on the chain, actually being announced as a part of this conference. And I think we have a lot of exciting things in terms of IP, TVL, IP, things they can do with programmable IP initiatives, and also a very, very exciting AI initiatives as well that will be revealed in the conference. So I think people will be surprised. I mean, I think KBW is a great event, but I think most of the KBW folks, the people who go there and other conferences, it's all crypto folks you can meet and token to Fortnite and so on and so forth. Our event, you'll see the actual tech and IP leaders in Korea who are shaping Korea's IPs, Korea tech, Korea AI, that is actually having a global influence. And that's actually, and I want to be able to facilitate it as a Korean founder between the West and Korea. And that's what I'm very excited about. And that's going to be announced in the next several hours.
Very cool. Yeah, this is, kind of a full circle moment for you, as well as the Story protocol, going to Korea, throwing this big event. You drop some alpha. That it is very cool to see a general product that can tie so many different companies and angles together. And so, I think it's also important to mention, look, we appreciate you coming on the show and dispelling some of these rumors. It takes a pretty strong character to stand in the face of adversity. And that's exactly what you did here today. So very grateful for you coming on the show, debunking some of this misinformation and sharing kind of what you've been through over the last few weeks and also Yeah,
So
and also, talking to, Stories community. And so just in the last few minutes here, as we kind of wrap up, what's maybe a final word to the community after seeing some of these tumultuous, times? Korea is a big event. There's going to be things that are coming out afterwards. Any more alpha, anything else that you can share to instill some more confidence in the community?
First of all, it seems like a tumultuous event in the face of CT, but these are very, I've had 100x bigger problem like cash crunch in the last company. I've had co-founders leave, I've had teams change. And, every single company go through this, Facebook had Dustin Milkovich and Chris Hughes. In year 4, actually, Sheryl Sandberg comes in. Even Coinbase, first 3-4 years, Fred Urshan was there on top of Brian Armstrong. 4th year, actually, Fred Urshan leaves and so on and so forth. So these things happen all the time, right? So for me, I've experienced in the last company, 100x bigger problems. And this was, we have such a good momentum. In the last few months, I think it's unfortunate this was so emphasized, but there are so many exciting things with Poseidon, Grayscale, the Chapter 2 Chief AI Officer, to the IP strategy vehicle. Actually, up the listing, it's special for me because as I'm Korean, we're on Coinbase, we're on NASDAQ, all these things. But, as a Korean founder, for some reason, Korean founders rarely get on Upbit for many reasons. So, that was all very special. A lot of great momentum. And, I can't reveal to you publicly, but very big AI partnerships that you'll be surprised by, huge IPs coming. And, in a month, this event, I think last year we held this event called Story House, where, who's who of Korea came. But here now, these are now who's who of IP in Korea, the biggest business leaders in Korea. And you can say it's just like a small country, but we are punching above our weight on IP, from Parasite to BTS to Biscuit Game to all these things. So I think it's for an IP chain, there's a real synergy there. And then even actually, we set Poseidon real world data AI licensing for physical AI model company, robotics, huge, because of, Hyundai bought Boston Dynamics. There's very, very big things happening there. So I think actually, this is not just a crypto conference. It's going to be AI conference, IP conference. And the roster of the people, the biggest game person, the biggest K-pop person, the biggest K-movie person, the biggest kid IP person, the Baby Shark, everyone is going to come and actually announce a partnership with Story. And I think, we're very excited. And it was unexpected that this kind of news blew up that much, because leadership change, leadership grow, and so on and so forth. But I think I'm just going to think of it in a thankful way. It gives hopefully attention to the good things that we have coming forward.
Yeah.
And thank you, Robin. And I know I took a lot of your time. I know Rollup TV just got to do like 15-minute, 20-minute kind of stuff.
No, man. We wanted to have you on to get your side of the story. I think we're gonna let you go and kind of decompress and just have a conversation about this show. So that's why we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, bring me more. Bring me more. I'm happy to talk. And
right.
Any future FUD, message me. I can try to deal with in public.
All right. Yeah. We'll hold you to that, SY.
I'll see you in Korea, man. Thanks for your time.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Andy and Robbie. Really appreciate it. Bye.
Chat soon.
Alrighty. Wow, that was a journey.
Yeah. You bro got some tweets.
I was kind of playing bad cop there, I feel like.
Yeah, I do think it takes a lot of integrity, to like
show up and
show up and have the conversation, take it on the chin. Like we've seen other.
Yeah, it's easier to be in our shoes and just be like, let's read tweets off Twitter.
But it's also easier for other founders to just kind of fade into irrelevance and not really address these concerns and just keep building, because the news cycle turns and they'll just keep going. Andy, I had a question for you as we were going through it. Just I meant to ask you on the, we're still here, but why do you think this blew up so much? It was around the Eclipse thing, because like you said, Eclipse had 200K maybe a little
Yeah,
bit
like
more.
let's look at clips. Like it literally barely even. I checked it yesterday and it had like 200K views in like 8 hours, and I was
I
like,
saw
what?
several people left. They changed leadership. They changed several people on the team. Major restructuring.
You know what happened though is that the CEO put out a tweet with he put out the tweet, and then he locked his account, and so he made his account private. So he put out the tweet. It got 100K views, started blowing up. He made his Twitter private so nobody could actually boost it. And then it's now sitting at 100K. The Eclipse account is still public, but of course it's a brand account. There's less like, I just think Jason did everything that you would want to do to make the post viral. I think unironically and accidentally, he posted it on a Friday.
Yeah.
He posted 4 photos, which the algorithm
Likes
automatically
media.
boosts photos.
Right.
And the photos were very like friendly and happy-go-lucky kind of vibe. And he did a long post, which means that like people are gonna click on that and read it, the whole thing. He was talking about the funding. He wasn't very clear about what his next role is going to be. And so there's just a lot of like things that people were saying, and like, this is not anything new, right? And like, I'm not trying to rag on these guys. I'm just saying what people were saying. But like, I think this went viral for all of those reasons.
Yeah.
But also I just think that it shows the importance of story. Like it shows that it triggers people, that it's got high enough market cap, that people are concerned about, people think about it. Dude, I'm not going to make any price predictions on IP, but after the conversation, I'm so bullish. I mean, I've been bullish on SY, and like I do own some IP tokens, have some, but like I'm so like, dude, this isn't a big deal. Like Jay-Z's gone, but the problem is that I can't let get past me and you, and this is kind of going overboard from like the why this went viral thing, is like there is a trend of people coming into the space, launching ideas in bull runs, grifting, and then leaving. And so
market warriors.
That is just something that we will never condone. And I think that is like the biggest problem that crypto Twitter and that crypto community had with this.
I think on the virality of the announcement of his departure, I think there's you can look at this and look, this had every recipe of why it went viral. The project, the announcement, the way it was done. You can look at this, and if you're trying to go viral, do some of those things. But usually, I think what you're getting at is that you don't really want this to go far and wide, because it really wasn't a big deal. Like in hindsight, it was, because there were so many claims and accusations thrown around. But you're right. Hearing SY talk today about some of the controversies he's faced in previous companies being 100x more like financially significant, it made this company departure look minuscule. He also identified several other companies where the original founder wasn't the one that took it to scale. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase took over for Fred Estrom. Another one that SY mentioned, massive companies that took off after the initial founder left. Those might be the exceptions, but look, SY was the original founder. He raised all the money. He has all the Korean partnerships and relationships. And Jay-Z was sort of the CT, crypto native community evangelist, junior co-founder. And so him leaving, I think we kind of got brought back to reality a little bit about how big of a deal it really is. And oftentimes, crypto Twitter does tend to embellish these sorts of things.
Yeah, that was a wild stream. That was fun. I was so serious in the beginning, and then it kind of just hung out.
You're a bad cop,
dude. I mean, bro. Like, let's see what happens. You know.
I think we asked fair, like tough questions, but fair questions.
Yeah.
These were genuinely. I feel this way with most of the conversations we have. It's questions that we genuinely are curious. That is kind of the leading philosophy here. Is like, are we genuinely curious about the way the market makers deals were done, or what generated a $5 billion valuation? Or
dude, did you hear him say that he's got the Squid Game's main actor coming to the event in Korea?
Are you going to interview him?
I think so. I'm going to try. If he will even take it up. I got a feeling this guy doesn't really do much interviews.
Have you seen Squid Game?
Yeah.
Gotta ask him, some specific questions there. Like, did he know that guy was gonna cross him like that at the end of season 2? Great stream today, Andy. Guys.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, guys.
The guys
Appreciate
behind
you
the
guys coming
scenes.
out.
We've got some work to do. We'll see you
Thank
next
you,
time.
guys.
Thank you, everyone involved. Thank you to the story team. Thank you to SY for showing up today. Andy, thank you for asking the tough questions so that I could be good cop. And
Yeah, it was fun, man.
Yeah, it was. It was a good time.
We'll see
More
you
of
guys
those.
soon. We'll see you guys tomorrow, actually. Different stream type, but should be just as fun. See you then.
Peace, everyone.